Now we get to one of the weirdest episodes in art history, the Dada movement. I'm going to introduce it with the first few minutes of a video that captures some of Dada's frenetic and playful spirit and its anti-establishment, in-your-face attitude, literature, and art. The entire video, the ABCs of Dada, presented appropriately, starting with Z for Zurich, where the movement was founded, is up on Moodle in 3 parts. So you may not have picked up the name, but on the video you just heard from Hans Arp. In the Dada spirit, he believed that chance should determine his artistic composition. So he cut up papers, dropped them onto the floor, dropped them onto another sheet of paper, and glued the art that resulted. Dada artists adapted the collage method to make political statements with photos. Here's another video clip about photo montage, which includes footage of this artist playing with her Dada dolls. So now that you've seen the video clip and have some sense of photo montage, take a closer look at this work. Hannah Huck has included images of her political heroes, Marx and Lenin, as well as a map showing where women can vote. She also stuck the heads of German military leaders on exotic dancers' bodies. Here are my snipped and blown up clips of these images. The work no longer appears on our list, but Varvara Stepanova's constructivism photomontage does. Constructivist, sorry. So, what similarities and differences do you observe between these two photomontages? I'd say that the Dada version is sharper, more biting, more satirical, and much, much more irreverent. Artists who tried for satire or irreverence toward the Soviet Union tended to end up in Siberia or on the wrong side of a firing squad. I'm guessing, too, that the Dada artists would have found those red electrical wires pretty over the top. And speaking of over the top, by far the most famous Dada artist was Marcel Duchamp, and believe it or not, the fountain, and yes, it is just a urinal with a name painted onto it, competes with Demoiselle d'Avignon in most lists of art historians for the title of the most influential artwork of the 20th century. Do you remember reading about this when you read about a century of conceptual art way back when, together with the readings about the Elgin marbles? Might be worth going back and looking at that piece again. At any rate, the urinal was one of a group of sculptures that Duchamp gave the name ready-made. And here you see another one, the bicycle wheel on the stool. Now, you must know the story of the fountain, so I'm going to hand things over to our next presenter. The fountain and other ready-mades have appeared on the AP exam all the time in the past, and since this is still one of our required works, it would not surprise me to see them arise again. So here's an example from 2011. And to answer this, let's hear from Marcel Duchamp himself in a 1965 interview with an art museum curator. Well, what's amazing about this work, and it's hard to tell from a slide, is that it is made up of oil paint, wire, and lead foil placed between 2 large glass panels. So the bride on top, according to Duchamp himself, is, quote, basically a motor fueled by, quote, love gasoline. Okay? It's a little easier to make out the male figures in the bottom. The chocolate grinder apparently represents masturbation. I am not making this up. Duchamp left a whole book of detailed notes about this work. So this picture of movement shows a kinship with Cubism, Futurism, and also with Muybridge's motion photography. In fact, it may have been based on another of Muybridge's studies, this time an early movie. I have the link down below. If you have a few minutes, or actually just a few seconds, you can see the actual film footage of a nude woman descending a staircase that Muybridge made. The Salon des Indépendants, where many of the artists we've been studying in this unit introduced their work to the world, rejected this painting when it was submitted to their exhibition of Cubist art. Remember, these were the wild and crazy guys. This was not the French Academy. But the jury, even of the wild and crazy guys, thought that this was too literary and that the painting was too close to Futurism. By the way, there may have been a political undertone to this decision. The Futurists were seen as right-wing, and in fact, many of them did become fascists. The Parisian art scene was, for the most part, committed to socialism or communism. This painting generated a firestorm of criticism when it appeared at the famous 1913 Armory Show in New York City, which is actually one of the most important exhibitions in art history. The show, which was very widely attended and got a lot of attention, if not always approval, introduced American audiences to European artists such as Picasso, Matisse, Braque, Kirchner, Kandinsky, and of course Duchamp. It also featured some notable American artists, but unfortunately they got a lot less attention than the Europeans. That's going to change in our next unit. So here's a photo of the show being set up at the armory of the New York National Guard 69th Regiment. And here's a fun anecdote about this and the Duchamp painting you just saw, another tidbit I picked up. After attending the armory show and seeing Marcel Duchamp's nude descending a staircase, President Theodore Roosevelt, and this is an exact quote, said, "Take the picture which for some reason is called a naked man going downstairs. There is in my bathroom a really good Navajo rug, which, on any proper interpretation of the Cubist theory, is a far more satisfactory and decorative picture. Now, if for some inscrutable reason it suited somebody to call this rug a picture of, say, a well-dressed man going up a ladder, the name would fit the facts just about as well as in the case of the Cubist picture of the naked man going downstairs. From the standpoint of terminology, each name would have whatever merit inheres in a rather cheap straining after effect, and from the standpoint of decorative value, of sincerity, and of artistic merit, the Navajo rug is infinitely ahead of the picture." Actually, in some ways, Roosevelt was ahead of his time. We have a lot more appreciation for the artistry of the art of the indigenous Americas, as you just saw. Still, I think it's kind of a fun quote. But this is the photo I really like. Sorry, it was a very old photo. When the Armory exhibition closed in Chicago, students at the School of the Art Institute celebrated the exhibition's close with a mock trial of Henri Matisse, whom they named Henri Hair Mattress. They convicted him of artistic crimes and burned 4 of his paintings in effigy. And on that note, I'll leave Dada and move on to another celebration of inner weirdness, the Surrealists.